Welcome to another episode of Ask Infinity. My name is Jordan Lindo, your host, and today's Infinity is Edwin, and I'm hoping you're going to help me say your last name. Zapata? Zapata?
Either one is fine. The first one works best.
Zapata. Thank you so much for being on here. Like you're a friend, and so honestly, I didn't realize just how successful you are until I started diving deeper into what you do and what you're up to. So I'm actually a little bit nervous today to have you on the podcast. And I'm excited, honestly. So what I like to do normally is give an introduction and give people my perspective of you, and then I'll have you give yourself a self-introduction. But from what I know about this gentleman, he's in the business world. He's looking to be successful, or he is successful. He's looking to be more successful on the financial level, in business. He has his own book. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And would you say you are a salesperson first, or a sales genius? Like, what would you say about yourself? How would you introduce yourself?
Well, that's a good question. And I would actually phrase it differently. The way I prefer to put it would be, I'm a people person first. I prefer to serve before I deserve. Because you even mentioned in regards to me being, let's say, a salesperson or being more successful, I can't be any of those things unless I help others become that first. So I'm a people person first.
You know what? I'm so happy you said that, because I think, and this is something you say in the book, a lot of people have an issue with sales, and I'm one of those people. I love sales, don't get me wrong. However, I think my relationship with sales could use a little bit of a tweak. And so I would just love to get your perspective on what sales is and how you approach sales in your business.
Well, Jordan, it's exactly that. When it comes to sales, in the book, I even talk about, it's all about your philosophy. And that's something that really shifted my mindset when I really began to understand it. You and I sell every day. Everybody listening, watching, actually sells every day. People that have been married, they obviously made a sale. You've been married twice, you must be really good at selling. So all selling is, when you break it down on a fundamental level, it's just an exchange. It can be an exchange of an idea, of a product, service. If you ask somebody out on a date, that's a sale. If I ask you, hey, well, what's the last movie you saw? You tell me what it is. You may tell me something good or something bad. And based off of your selling of that, I may buy it or watch it or not. So that's really what it comes down to on the most basic principle. Once you get to that, you begin to shift your focus, and you don't look at people, and I talk about that in the book, you don't look at people as a commission check, a sales target. You don't look at people like numbers. You begin to see people for people, and then you begin to shift your focus on value. So if I'm speaking to you, I'm not thinking of my commission check or how much I'm going to make if you buy this. I'm thinking of, how can I add value to your life with what I'm offering? Because if I can't change your life, then what good am I doing to you? I'm not serving you.
Okay, so sales for you is coming from a perspective of value over like the bottom line, is what I'm hearing you say, which is interesting. So how would you then help somebody shift from the mindset of, because let's be real, when we think about people getting into sales positions, we think about people who want to take advantage of the opportunity to make a lot of money. So even take me, for example. How would you help me shift from, okay, sales is not about money, to sales is about adding value? Do you have any tips that would help somebody make that jump?
Absolutely. There's lots of tips I could share. And to really get down to the nitty gritty of it, each individual is a little different based off of what you're promoting, product, service. But for example, us being here together, you are providing value to the people that get to listen and watch this podcast. That's one way of you providing service to people. Gary Vee actually talks about it the most, where it's a lot of give first. So when you want to shift your mindset, doesn't matter who it is, could be you, could be me, could be anybody else. it really takes a moment to sit down. And that's something I do with my clients. I sit down with them and we analyze, okay, what is it that you're looking to do? What is it that you have? Because what you have is like an inventory. So you have to be ready to pull out what you got to serve somebody with it. If, for example, you go to McDonald's, I don't recommend people go there, although we all still do. If you go to McDonald's for a burger and they say, no, you should really get the fries, but you say, no, I want a burger. It's like, you know what I want, now cater around it. Hey, what if we made that a combo? So you get your burger and you get to try the fries and you can wash it down with a nice drink. So now not only did I provide value, I upsold, but I gave you what you wanted. And it's the same kind of principle no matter what you're doing. Whether it is your podcast, you're providing value, doesn't matter who it is. It could be anything from network marketing to traditional sales, online, brick and mortar, anything. It's the same concept. When you walk in, it should be value first.
Yeah, okay, but I hear what you're saying. I think that is very valuable. I guess, but my question, I'm going to reframe it for you, because I don't think I really framed it right the first time. Why would you look at business through that lens when you could look at business through the lens of, I want to make this sale? And we all know there's a million tips out there for how to make a sale, and none of them are connected to, what you just talked about. It's just like, if you do this, then this is the result. So why should somebody not, just get as much information as possible on how sales works and just apply the information versus your mentality, your modality, where it's like service oriented? Like, what are the benefits of just pure numbers and putting some heart in? Like, give me the details on that. I'm just curious.
All right, well, essentially the answer, I believe, is actually one and the same. So instead of looking at the numbers, people as numbers and just the bottom line, although that's important, like you should never dismiss the fact that the numbers at the bottom line are important, but regardless on what scale you're at, small business, home business, large business, corporate, it's always about value. And I'm going to always wrap it right back to value and changing people's lives. Can be changing a business. It's the same principle. As a perfect example to what you're asking, let's use Steve Jobs as an example. He focused on the end user first. He always thought about the person using the device. I'm speaking to you right now on an Apple device, and he catered everything off of the end user's experience. And that was the most important focus because he was focused on the value and he worked backwards. And in doing so, it's the same principle. So if I go to you and I say, hey, Jordan, I have this product or service, but I'm going to ask questions first. I'm going to dig into what you're going to use it for, why you're looking into it, how this can serve you. And once I have that, then I can address it and provide the value, right? If you're looking for a boat and I sell you on a plane, clearly I didn't ask questions and I didn't provide you value. Now I'm actually selling you. And in the book, I give a distinction of salesperson. You want to be a salesperson and not a salesman, because men are jerks and you don't want to be a man in that sense. So you don't want to be a salesman. A lot of the guys are going to kill me for saying that, but essentially you want to look at people for people. And that's what it comes down to. I have to listen to you. What are your problems, your desires? How can I solve that? What are you looking for? What are situations that maybe you didn't even think of? So I will always wrap it back to value and changing lives.
Okay, so that's amazing. I just had a new thought. So basically what you're saying is you can do both things. It's just the order of operations. So it's always about, okay, first, who are you serving? Why are you serving them, or whatever? And then apply all the tools that you can in regards to making the sale. So they work together. That makes
Absolutely.
perfect sense. Okay, interesting. So I just want to really quickly jump to your book here. What was the, like, to me, and no disrespect, man, you know I love you. I feel like writing a book is just so commonplace now. It's like having a business card, and maybe that's what it's all about. Is another point of access that your consumer can have to you. And so I'm just curious, why did you write this book? What was your purpose behind writing this book? Was it just so that you could extend yourself in the in the market, or what was your reasoning behind writing the book?
Well, I love that question, and I'm going to phrase it this way because I actually had a similar discussion with a client last week on that topic, and they said because they're looking to write their own book, and they said, I've noticed that people nowadays are writing books. More and more people are writing books, and I said that is how you know that you've become an author. And what does that mean? What that means is now you know that you are attracting the vibration or frequency of being an author. So you asking me the question, because let's look at it from a point of frame of, you said, hey, Edwin, I noticed a lot of people are doing this. Well, that's because you're on the same frequency where you see, hey, I see individuals, professionals promoting themselves in this manner, and I'm beginning to understand the shift. It's the same thing like a podcast, and it doesn't put down a podcast, but podcast provides value in itself as well. You and I, in that regard, we're kind of in a similar arena. I've noticed a lot of people making podcasts, and that doesn't put down any podcast. It just means everybody that you and I are vibrating at the same frequency are looking to provide more value in these avenues. Whereas perhaps somebody that has never thought of it and they come across your podcast or my book, they say, wow, an author. Wow, this person is a podcast host, because now they are entering the same space. So what got me to do it? I guess you could say I finally entered the frequency of being an author because I always wanted to be an author. So I used being a book to share my knowledge and experiences so that others can benefit from it, because you're never going to know, just like with a podcast, you will never know the full impact that you're going to have in the future with this piece of information that you shared.
Can you say that last part again? It just kind of
Sure, no
cut
problem.
out for a second.
So you'll never know the full extent of value that your podcast, my book, anything that anybody shares, we will never know how far the fruits of our labor are going to extend. And that's why I decided to write a book.
So is there a reason that you chose a book over a podcast? Like why a book, not a podcast for you personally?
So for myself personally, book was the first thing that came to my mind. I had never even thought of doing a podcast, although it's on my list of things to do eventually. But I looked at it more like a staple for myself, kind of like a personal trophy, because growing up, I always saw my mom reading. From the moment she'd wake up till she'd go to sleep, she'd be reading. We didn't have internet at the time, but she'd be reading. And she always said, it's important to learn. Now, why does that matter? Because throughout my school years, I didn't bother reading, and I hated reading. I actually would always fight against reading and doing book reports. I was great at making up book reports with stories that never happened, until I finally began to understand the power of reading. And once I did that, I realized I had to contribute and I had to write a book. So me writing the book is like a staple to myself. It's a personal trophy that, hey, I went from not reading and being a horrible reader in school to now I have a book and I'm teaching others the value of reading because I missed out.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, and I'm not gonna lie, I sometimes think about what my life would look like if I wrote a book. I mean, I have so many ideas and I have so many journals with ideas written down, and I essentially have a book written. It's just not published. So yeah, I just want to applaud you, man, because it takes a lot of, I mean, the process of writing a book is easy, but it takes a lot of effort, time, attention, and focus to actually get it done. Like I know so many authors in the making where, they have the book or, they're in the process of publishing the book and it never gets done. So yeah, congratulations, brother. I really, it's a beautiful book. I really love the book. I haven't read too much yet because I just got it yesterday. But from what I've read so far, I'm liking it. It seems very relatable. And I'm just gonna let you know if by the time I finish the book, if I don't like the book, I'm gonna let you know. I'm not gonna bullshit you, man. Because how many pages do you got here? You got, and
It's about 100 pages.
It's 100 pages. That's a pretty solid book. That's a pretty solid book. Like it's you could probably read it in one sitting, right?
Oh yeah, easily. Yeah.
So it's not like it's not fluff. You definitely add value. So I'm excited to read through it. But I'm looking at step number 6 here, and it says woman empowerment. So I'm curious, like, what's that about?
So I was expecting that question to come up, and for the females in that are listening, no, I'm not mansplaining women empowerment. Let's just get that. Let's just put that out there. I'm not mansplaining it, but it's a topic that I felt was important to myself, and I just share 3 examples of experiences that I've had or seen where women weren't being treated fairly in the workplace, and my mom being one example of that. So I share my experience from my perspective as a child, seeing my mother going into the workforce, trying to provide for us and bring in some income, and she was being treated very unfairly, which helped lay the foundation actually of why that means something to me, of why it's important to help empower women in the workplace, and just be fair. It doesn't matter whether you're male, female, or trans, bi, whatever race, religion. It really doesn't matter, and that's why I felt that topic was important. Even in one example, because I had the fortunate experience of getting a supervisor role, and that's one of the stories in the book, where when I stepped into that role onto a particular job site, we had one female on our crew, and she wasn't being treated fairly, but she was more qualified than some of the other guys to operate equipment, but they weren't giving her that shot. And to me, it didn't make sense, because let's say if she were a male with those qualifications, it would have been like no argument. Of course, you'd give him the equipment to operate. Here she was more than qualified, and they were giving the most inexperienced person, just because he was qualified, the opportunity to operate. So they were doing an injustice to her. So once I stepped into that role, I gave her the opportunity. I said, look, you're qualified, take the equipment. And her attitude totally changed. And that's the story I share in the book. So I'm not mansplaining women empowerment. I'm just sharing experiences, because, hey, if it's an important topic, I feel it's important for even men to see how important of a topic it is. Because if it helps change a man's perspective and see like, hey, just treat people fairly. And if they're qualified, then give them the opportunity because they're qualified, right? It makes no sense to me why you would treat anybody any different because of their age, sex, religion, culture, and any of that. So that's why I put that in.
Well, to be honest, I applaud you, because if a change is going to happen, it's not going to, it can come from women. I think they have an important integral role to play. But if men are the problem, then it's going to take other men like you, right, to check other men.
Exactly.
Right? That's just the reality of the situation. So, I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing. It stood out for me because I also am in alignment with women's empowerment as well. And so it really, I think, is probably one of the most important things, because women actually, women make up so much of the world's talent. Like in your scenario, and they make up also the smallest percent of people who are receiving the opportunity to add value. And it's like, what I'm just thinking, what kind of world would we live in if we had just given women more opportunity to women that deserve it and who are qualified? So can you just really quickly say, because I know we moved really fast in the beginning, what you do and on a day-to-day basis, what's your focus at the moment?
Sure, I'll answer that question by closing the women empowerment part. Something
Sure.
that I don't mention in the book is I actually got to speak and open the panel for International Women's Day for United Nations in Toronto. So I got to open up the day for women on behalf of men, whereas, I acknowledge it's not our day, and we need to acknowledge the women out there that don't get the acknowledgement, because sometimes they don't, and they really do need it. Now, with that, there's such a need for women out there to be speakers. Like it's unfortunately dominated by men, and we need more women speakers. And that's something that I coach on a daily basis, to answer your question. So what I do is I do business consulting for a publishing company, and I do sales coaching and business consulting. So that's what I do on a daily basis. And to your point, because you mentioned earlier, in terms of the financial markets, I wouldn't consider myself a financial expert. I cannot call myself a financial advisor, but these are things that I like to be involved in. Through my experience, I've gotten to build a really decent portfolio, especially coming from my background. And that's something I also like to share on the side for those that are willing to learn. But the essential is teaching people how to be more effective in sales, business consulting, and motivational speaking.
Awesome. Do you want to go a little bit into detail about, you said you have a portfolio. What market are you in regards to your portfolio?
So without giving away too much, because sometimes I like to keep the full portfolio private.
Of course.
It's, I'll even answer it this way. When people hear that you have a portfolio, they think, how can I do that tomorrow? And they lack the part that takes the discipline and the patience. If you can master these two things, you'll be successful. And Warren Buffett talks about it a lot. It took me years to learn and understand and make mistakes and lose money and really build a portfolio. To answer your question, it involves precious metals, real estate, royalties, different businesses, consulting, commissions, affiliate marketing, like anything that I can add to a stream of income. I try my best to get involved wherever it suits me best with my personal brand. So
real quickly, and again, keep as much information private as you possibly can here. What market is giving you the biggest return right now?
It would have to be the real estate, crypto, precious metals, and Forex.
Okay, interesting. So the staples, they're still going. Honestly, I like real estate, but when it comes to just the ease, and I think about how easy crypto is and how easy foreign exchange is, I guess it all depends on balancing your portfolio, right? But I don't know, maybe I don't have the right sources, but for me, real estate has been something that is slowly waning in influence, and at least in my circles. Obviously, real estate is time tested. We're not talking about that, but I'm just saying, is there a shift? Do you feel like, I'm just curious, do you feel like there's a shift in what people are putting their money into?
Well, there's definitely a shift, and it's going to be more massive than I think any of us can comprehend. Now, to predict the future, nobody knows that. But you're definitely right in terms of when it comes to real estate, there's a shift, but it's definitely not going to go anywhere. If anything, when people are looking left, you should be looking right. So the more people are flooding towards, as right now, it's not even a secret, the average person is running to the crypto market. The sad part is they're running there without educating themselves. They have no former knowledge of Forex, no former knowledge of stocks, no former knowledge of investing. They don't have a mentorship. They don't even take the time to watch videos for free on YouTube or all over the internet. They don't take the time to educate themselves, and they're running right off a cliff. Now, where things are shifting beyond our comprehension, you're going to have things like NFTs and all these things that interact. You're going to have games that while you play, they pay you. You can have your own digital art. You have Samsung making a crypto wallet on your phone. Like it's just going to be exponential. You're going to be able to buy art, display it, and the things that you buy from one game, you can use it in another game. And it's just going to be a world that none of us could have imagined. And then factor that in with virtual reality, et cetera. And you have like digital real estate. And these are things that, like, for you to try to get involved in it all, you'd go insane. So if you circle it back to the fundamentals of, let's say, real estate, and just start to slowly build your portfolio, like I was sharing, it's all about patience and discipline. But if you don't do the education, it's self-sabotage, and people are getting they're falling victim to these Ponzi schemes, scams, rug pulls that are a lot of nonsense coins in the crypto market, because they are literally being taken advantage of because they don't know any better. So there's definitely going to be a shift in that direction too, where the average investor is going to have a sour taste in their mouth, because mark my words, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you're going to have people from this era that are going to have kids later and or grandkids and say, I invested in the crypto market before, that doesn't work, you just lose money. Just like how people in this generation, they say, I've invested in stocks, that doesn't work, it loses money. I bought a property before and I went bankrupt. It's going to be the same thing. It's always a pattern.
Man, you just brought that together so nicely, and it makes sense. It really does make sense. And I guess at the end of the day, it's like, have you done your due diligence with whatever it is that you're trying to do? Because you're right, there's still money in real estate, there's still money in everything. But these markets go through cycles, and you got to know what you're doing, right? Amazing, amazing. So I wanna dive a little bit more into who you are, Edwin, because I mean, okay, I get it. You're a successful guy. You got a book. As seen on, I didn't even know you were on Fox, NBC, and ABC. Like this is pretty amazing.
That was on their news media. So they picked up my book, like they picked up the story about my book, and they published it on all their different networks. It's it. Now I'm going to sound like I'm bragging, but it was actually picked up over 312 media outlets all across North America.
No, that's amazing, man. You got to brag. I don't know who started this concept of being humble. It may be a religious thing, but being humble is like the worst thing. And I had to learn that the hard way. Obviously,
yeah,
humility,
I'd agree with some of that.
I mean, okay, I'll give the caveat, because there are people who will take me all the way serious. You need an element of humility, of course, right? Because people relate to that. But I think that we, in our society, take it too far, and it's like being humble is almost like not acknowledging your accomplishments, not acknowledging what you've done, what you're aspiring to. And I see these people every day, like they're just humble. They humble themselves into the ground, and it's like, no, man. If you have these kind of accomplishments, if you don't talk about them, who's going to talk about them, right? So I'm curious, man. Like, what drives you? Like, why do all this? Why write a book? Why? I read in the book you're a philanthropist. Why give back? Like, what is the driving factor behind you doing all of this?
I'll answer that by adding to your previous point, because I grew up with humble beginnings. My parents came to Canada from Colombia, and we grew up poor. My parents separated, typical Hispanic story, and I basically became the man of the house fairly quickly. We didn't have much money. It was just myself, my mom, my sister. My sister's younger than I am, and I became the man of the house quickly. I started to work as soon as I could. We were delivering newspapers. My sister and I went to work at McDonald's, Burger King, and the traditional route, just trying to make ends meet. Now, I was that kid in high school that I only had one pair of pants, one pair of shoes, one sweater, one jacket, one shirt. And if I went to Goodwill to get a new shirt, everybody knew that I had new clothes. And we couldn't even afford that. My sister and I, we'd I'm sorry, United Way and Goodwill, but we would actually steal clothes from there because it was just easier to steal. And, you're just stealing used clothes. We even got to the point where I was stealing toilet paper from one of the fast food chains. I won't say which brand it is, but that's how rough things were. Now, having that upbringing, I didn't have much. I remember finding my first Air Force Ones in the locker room in high school, and the next day my friend coming up to me saying, "Hey, bro, are those my shoes?" And I had to look at him and say, with shame, knowing that he knew, even though I cleaned them up, or I thought I did, "No, bro, these are my shoes. Go get your own. I don't know why you think these are yours." But I knew that he knew, and it was just so embarrassing I couldn't admit it. And I could tell which day was cold, which day was colder than the last, by how quickly my toes would get numb because of the holes in my shoes. Now, take that upbringing. That's what made me humble. And that's why sometimes, to add to your point previously, it makes it kind of hard to brag, because I don't want to brag. I know what it's like to have nothing, and I know what it's like to settle. So I don't want to show off because I don't need to.
Okay, I
And
got to interject right here because I get what you're saying. You know, you had a hard upbringing. It wasn't easy, X, Y, Z. But I guess at the root of this question is, and this is something I don't really hear people talk about too often. A lot of people were in that position, but they didn't, like, when you are in that position, you hit a fork in the road. And so, yeah, you guys stole clothes, but I mean, things could have gotten a lot worse. You could have did a lot worse. So my question to you is why didn't you continue down that path instead of the path of humility and wanting to strive and do better and create better for yourself and create better for your family? That to me is the fork. That's a conscious fork. You chose this way. So I want to know why didn't you continue down the path of you know, I guess you could say wrong. I don't know. I don't believe in right or wrong, but I mean down the path.
let's say alternative, the
the
alternative path.
There you
Because
go.
when and I'm going to say that to defend all of those from that environment, because I don't want to say wrong, although we know that it's bad. It doesn't make you necessarily a bad person. When you're surrounded with that stuff, usually you lean to these things that are bad, not because you're bad, but sometimes because that's really the only opportunity that's available, or the only thing that you have access to. Now, with that in mind, I remember I had like an aha moment one day during high school. I would skip classes. I couldn't even make it to school most of the time because I didn't have bus fare. But when I did, I still wouldn't even attend, and I would skip class a lot. So it made no sense. So when I would skip, I remember a lot of times during lunchtime when I'd be around, you know, that circle, that environment where people would be drinking and smoking. And one day I had that aha moment where I sat back, because I would never drink and smoke during school hours. I did it like once or twice, and I didn't like the effect of like trying to play it off. So it was just a rule for myself. I wouldn't do it during school hours. So during lunch, I remember sitting back and watching my circle of friends at the time while they're doing what they do, which we did every day. And I watched them, and I thought, I had that light bulb turn on. And I thought, okay, let's fast forward 10 years from now. 10 years from now, these people are going to be either dead. Sad to say, some will be dead, in jail, or at a dead-end job, or living a life that I don't want to be living. So none of these outcomes appealed to me. So I thought, okay, so that's them, God bless them. But I don't want that for myself. I do want better, because I don't like my current circumstances. So if I want an alternative option, what do I have to do different? Well, for sure, none of them are going to graduate, or most of them won't. So maybe I should try to graduate. So I decided to take up courses during lunch. And this is something that I coach as well. And I changed my circle and my environment. So instead of me hanging out with them at lunch and basically being an average of the 5 people you hang around with, I would be in a class to earn my credits so that I could graduate. And then the people I surrounded myself were just different mindset focused. Now, fast forward, I did get to graduate 1 year late, but I did it. I did it. Most of those people didn't. God bless them. I'm not hating. I'm not judging nobody. But that was the shift there. Now, the fork in the road that was the real like pinnacle of everything was I went to a like a motivational weekend. Like to you and I now, it's like commonplace, but that was 15 years ago next month. And I went, and I remember seeing on the stage these people. They had nice watches, they were actual millionaires, nice shoes, nice everything, and they're up there talking. And I was like, wow, I've never met a millionaire. I've never met successful people. I don't see people dressed like this. And they're on the stage and they're talking, and I thought, okay, cool, you know, these are people that are living their fancy life. But then what got to me was they said, I used to be broke. I used to be a drug addict. I used to grow up, like I grew up on welfare, and I would hear success story after success story after success story that let me know that, hey, they didn't graduate from college, university, which is an opportunity that I'm not going to get, but they found a way. And if they could find a way, so could I. And they attribute it to books. This will answer add to what you asked me earlier. They attributed it to books. They picked up books and started reading. So I don't have to read useless novels. No offense to those that love novels. I don't have to. So I can you mean to tell me I could pick up a book? Like I can pick up a book and add to my skills? I never even thought of that. So I started to pick up books. Whatever book they said, I'd just buy it. Maybe I didn't have the money, but I'd buy it. I'd find it. I'd learn about it. I'd watch it on YouTube. And I went from there. And since there, it's just been an uphill journey to now where I'm speaking on stages and I'm selling from stages and I'm consulting others that are in the same shoes that I was 15 years ago.
Okay, that is like incredible. Man, that could be a movie. Just if you add details to that, you could turn that into a movie easily, or 3-part episode, whatever. But I want to dig even deeper, man, because God, man, that is like when you talk about those friends that you pretty much said, I don't want this. I have to stop and think, why? Like what set you apart from these people? I feel like you had similar upbringings, right? What do you think was the cause of your conscious epiphany? Like why? Like what makes you different? Why aren't these kids having the same epiphany?
I know what the answer is, and to add a filler into the story, because I like to be as authentic as possible. So I like to be as authentic as possible, and I don't want to make it sound like I just went straight into speaking and that's all I've done and like here I am. In between there, I was working construction, and from the leadership skills that I was able to develop from books and all that, it actually helped me climb ranks in the construction industry, become a supervisor, all that, which helped me get into positions where I was earning over 6 figures, which has helped me with my career in speaking and all that. So I just want to put that in there to remain as authentic, so that no one later says, yeah, well, you were working construction and I know because I was working with tools beside you. That's a key part of my story as well.
But that doesn't take away anything. But continue. I'm going to let you finish.
No, I know. And it all ties back into the same, because it comes back to the mindset. Now the answer to your question actually comes, and this is what I believe, and I'm going to owe it to my mom, because like how I shared earlier, that she'd be reading from the moment that she'd wake up till she'd go to sleep. She'd be listening to Tony Robbins' personal power tapes when I was a kid back in the early 90s. So to me, it just seemed normal. My mom's just listening to this guy talk downstairs, and I can still hear it in my mind right now, the music playing from those tapes, like if you've ever listened to them, like the original tapes, she still has them. So I remember I'd be in the kitchen, she'd be reading, and she's listening to in the background, and I'd take stuff in. Years later, I started to like regurgitate things that clearly were on the tapes, and I didn't know because I was so young. So I think in my subconscious somewhere, Tony Robbins and the influence from my mom, because a lot of times she would actually quiz and test my sister and I. She'd say, like, you guys can do anything, put your mind to it, never let people put you down. And she'd always put stuff in our mind that Tony Robbins was coaching her. So I believe that all that stuff became latent in my subconscious. And then I went through my whole teen years until I finally realized I want more. And then something probably activated that probably came from my mom and Tony Robbins in there with the work ethic that I got from my father. And it's just history from there.
Man, that to me is so freaking incredible, man. I have another question to ask, but I just want to sit with this for a second. That's the difference. That's the difference. That's so huge. And it's like, how can you debate the subconscious mind when you have stories like this? To me, that's the difference. These kids obviously didn't have parents that were planting seeds, right? Or told them these things. And I feel like people underestimate the value of words, number one, and the value of planting a seed.
I'm going to blow your mind even further. I'm going to stop you right there. And I'm going to blow your mind even further and your audience.
Okay.
So take it a step further. The publisher of my book, he's close friends with Tony, and he opens for Tony Robbins. And he is the mastermind behind the marketing of The Secret.
Oh my God.
And now I'm working with him as a business consultant.
Come on. Come on. Are you serious? Man, I hope you're taking care of your mom, eh?
Of course.
She hooked you up. And this is why women's empowerment is so goddamn important, people.
Thank you. Thank you.
God damn.
Without her, I wouldn't be me. So I had to put that in there, not mansplain it. For those that want to come at me, not mansplain it, but just share my experience and give a tribute to her.
Okay, so you said not mansplain it like 50 times. What's going on there? Like, are people taking this information and like, is it triggering people in a specific way? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, I've noticed that some people get sensitive the moment that they hear a man put a chapter of women empowerment in his book, and for those that just get triggered easily, it just sets them off without hearing the story or thinking broader of like the greater good of it.
So are these people who are not reading the book and are just jumping at you based on what they see?
Correct. One person that read it said, I felt offended by you putting this in there. It's like, but you said you read it. So it's clearly like, I'm just sharing my stories.
Well, Edwin, how dare you try to help women out as a man? Who do you think you are?
I know, right?
But you know what, though? That just goes to show you that, like, it doesn't matter what you do. And you know what? Let me finish this thought first. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how good you think you are. Someone will hate on you. And I learned this lesson early. I don't know how I made the connection, but I grew up in a religious family, a religious setting. And when I heard about like all the things that Jesus was doing, and then I heard that they crucified him, I'm like, I'm not gonna try to please no one. If Jesus, he raised people from the dead. If you can hate on that guy, who's safe? Who is safe? Nobody. So I'm just like, oh my God, that's incredible to me, bro.
It's funny you use that example. I was with my friend yesterday. His name's King. We've known each other since high school, and we actually touched on that subject because you should check out his music, by the way. King, artist from Toronto, awesome. So yeah. So we were talking about how even him, for our communities, his community, my community, our communities, local area, we try our best to help empower those around us, give opportunities. And, you know, he's very active in the Black community, and he tries to help people. And even through his music, and myself in the Hispanic community, and we just try to do better, right? Because we've had it rough, and we just try to give that little extra step, no pun intended, because my book's called Your Next Step. So we try to do that. And then people literally crucify us for it. How dare you do this? How dare you do that? Who are you to tell me this? It's like Jesus, and this is regardless if people are religious or not. So whether he existed or not, the story is irrelevant. The story itself, he was crucified for having a message, and they didn't respect him in his own town, in his own village. And it's the same, for sure, applies to you, to me, to my friend King, to anybody that you know, guaranteed, anybody that you know is trying to do something better. They get crucified in their local area. I can show you messages right now, Jordan, of people from London, Australia, South Africa, in different parts of Asia, in the US, to say, Edwin, thank you for being my mentor. I'm so glad I met you. my life wouldn't be the same had I not encountered you, etc., etc., etc. But in my hometown, people don't even bat an eye when I open my mouth.
Brother, you have no idea how much I resonate with that. And I think honestly, the reason for that is people who grow up or people who live in the same community as you, um, they think that because you're accomplishing something, it's a slight on them. Because it's like, okay, well, if we live in the same community, we have access to the same resources, you know, and he's accomplishing something great. What does that say about me? Like, and I think people really want to like bring people down. And again, it cycles back to the same thing, the humility, right? People are so comfortable being humble because it means that you don't have to accomplish anything. And that's why we have to really be careful about where we draw that line of humbleness, because yes, it's nice to you know, respect people and respect yourself and respect the community, but you know, there's an element of greatness that is outside the box of humility. I mean, like, if you want to be great at anything, humility has to take a back seat, right? So I'm
Absolutely.
just grateful that you, and maybe, you know, you have maybe more than we'll ever know. You have more, what am I trying to say here? You have more to give thanks for, to your parents for instilling in you something, because you were able to break through all of that, and even with all the noise, you know, make it to the other side, because that's to me the hardest part of greatness. And I actually want to tap more into that with you, because you know, during that process of becoming, or getting to that next level, there's just so many challenges. And so I'm curious, like, what did that look like for you? Like, other than what you've already given us, like what were the main challenges going from, you know, who you were to who you are today?
So one of the main challenges is actually something people don't talk about, especially for those coming from, I'm going to say more
Conservative?
poverty. Yeah, you know, if you grew up without much money, maybe government
Oh,
assistance, middle to lower class, especially less than middle, more lower, but like I did, something that stops you that you may not realize, and it took me forever to learn it. Only just recently, actually, that I really tap into it. Is it's almost like the fear of success. And the reason why I think it happened to me, at least, is because in these environments, it's very like survival based. And the moment I start to show I have, those that are lacking and are not willing to work for it, or are like, well, this is the only way that I can get it. Again, it doesn't make them bad people. It's just what's available to them or what they know. Um, they tend to go for it. So for myself, I have, I guess you could say, a fear that I'm overcoming now, a fear of showing that I have, because I know in these environments, it's only a matter of time if I'm caught slipping, that the person that sees that I have and I'm not paying attention, they'll take it away from me. So I have to always kind of keep up a front of like, I don't have much, so you don't mess with me. So with that, you have the fear of success because you already know you come from a negative environment. It's like the crab mentality. The moment you start to come up, all the other crabs are trying to bring you down. And if I already know I'm surrounded by crabs, why would I let them know I'm trying to get out of the bucket? Why would I let them know that like I built a $1 million portfolio by age of 30? Why would I let them know I have all these sorts of things? You try to give them nuggets and like little bits and pieces, and you see who catches. And those that do, you try to help them up. But you start to quickly realize that fear of success will hold you back, and you begin to see like what you were saying, they really don't want to really to do that for themselves, because they see you succeeding and it only validates to them that they're not doing anything, and they could, because the same opportunity is available to them. So it's a validation. That's why people are so negative, because if you're being successful and people are putting you down, you're doing something right, because nobody opens their mouth for failures. They just let you burn.
And I'm not sure. You said so much there, man. I'm trying to like figure out what to talk about, but I saw this meme somewhere online. Someone successful said this. They said no one more successful than you, maybe you know this, is going to talk down to you. It's always the people who are less successful that have something negative to say. And
Absolutely. They don't even
so,
have to be successful. As if somebody else, let's forget about success for a second. If somebody else with the same income, same opportunities as you, struggling the exact same way as you, is active, trying to move forward, just like you, this person will not put you down, because I'm here trying to come up and I'm watching you trying to come up. A fisherman can spot a fisherman. So why am I going to bring you down? It's like, yo, bro or sis, I got you because I'm struggling too. Let's help each other up. So I like to give the analogy of having a broke mindset versus being what was it? There's being broke and then having a broke mindset. I don't look at people with status. I don't put anybody above or below me ever. Like that's the humble side of me. That's just how I am. I don't care who you are. I'll say hello. I'll shake your hand. I don't care what your status is. It makes no difference to me. I just look at you as a person. Now, if you have a broke mindset, I really try to limit myself around you because of your mindset. You can have, some people don't realize this, you can have $1 million in your bank account, but have a broke mindset. You can have minus $500 in your bank account, but have a rich mindset, but financially you're broke. I would rather spend my time with this person that's financially broke, but they have a rich mindset, because they are trying to get out of the bucket. They're a crab, just like me, trying to get out. They're not the ones pulling me down. The one with $1 million with the broke mindset, they're the ones that see others trying to move up and they're trying to bring them down. It's like, why are you shooting them down? You already have $1 million. Let the guy succeed. If you're not going to help somebody, shut up.
man, that's amazing. And I was talking to someone else about that, another six-figure coach, facilitator. And yeah, he was saying the same thing, that, you know, he was dealing, he has friends in his network that are millionaires, but they're like broke still. Like their mentality is broke. Like they're always like they're penny pinching. And it's like, it's so funny. You can penny pinch with any amount of money in your account, and it's the energy is the exact same. And I find that so interesting. So thank you for bringing that up, because I think people sometimes miss that fact. And you know, rich mindset is what gets you there, is what I'm taking away from what you're saying right now. More than anything, like you didn't have anything, you just had the tools, you had the mindset. So okay, let me ask you this, and we're getting real close to the end here. So I'm gonna ask this one more question, then we'll wrap it up. But if you had to draw a pie diagram and put in the elements of success, right? Obviously, mindset would be in there. What else would be in that pie diagram, and maybe what percent of that particular thing would you attribute to it?
A high percent, I would put failure. 100%, without
Okay.
second guessing, failure. So
All right.
mindset, failure, and mentors,
Mentors.
and discipline. But that comes with mindset.
What's the difference?
So with discipline is essentially the action of doing something on a consistent basis and holding yourself back. But you won't have that discipline unless you have the right mindset. So like if you're going to get up early in the morning, like you should, I'm guilty that I like to sleep in, you know, do the workout, do the exercise, eat right, you know, have the right meals, whatever the case is, maybe have a little less this and drink more water, go out for a walk, take the stairs instead of the elevator. All those little things are disciplines, but they come with the right mindset. So mindset, fear would be like the biggest part, and then mentors. because they don't even have to be alive. Thanks to the internet today, you have access to mentors you never would have been able to hear or see. Some are even dead. Rest in peace. So, it's like filling a cup of water. Okay? You want to fill it up with the right kind of water.
Man, I am so happy, we got to finally sit and do this podcast. I honestly, man, the value that I'm receiving from this and that I'm hoping that I know the people listening will get from this is just, to me, through the roof. Okay, so my final question for you. Before the final question, are there any shout outs that you want to throw out there, social media plugs that you want to throw out there? I'm going to have them linked anyways, but I just figured I'd give you the opportunity to, shout out.
If anything, I'll give this shout out to my girl, Rosanna, because if it wasn't for her support and for her actually helping me out, getting involved with United Nations, I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to speak at the International Women's Day. I wouldn't even have met the publisher. So a huge thank you, shout out goes to her. I even dedicated the whole book to her. So it's a page that says, it's in the front. So 100% got to give her spotlight. And for sure, for your listeners, if they go to my website, edzapata.com, they can get a free downloadable copy of my book for those that want to check it out. So just go straight to edzapata.com, you get a free downloadable copy.
Amazing. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. And I'm sure that they will too. I'm going to be posting all those links below this so that they can just click. And thank you, man. I just want to say before I ask the last question, thank you for showing up. I know you're a busy guy. You have a lot of things that you could be doing. So I appreciate your time here. And my final question is this. How do you, and I'm going to ask it a few different ways. How do you experience infinity? What does infinity mean to you? How is infinity expressed in your life? You can answer one or any combination of those questions.
Okay, I know exactly how I'm going to answer it. Let's see if I could phrase it in like a riddle or a parable sort of thing. And if I fail, sorry, but for those that get it, you get it. And for those that don't get it, I planted the seed. So how I experience infinity, there's only one of us here. You can't have a beginning without an end. So for things to have started, it must have finished. So just remember that when you're feeling lonely, you did this to yourself. So the only company you have is everyone around you, which is still you at the end of the day.
Amazing. Man, I always get tripped up because people just take it in different directions, man. I didn't expect that from you, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much again for blessing my podcast. I hope that you have a great day, much more successful, abundant future. And thank you again, man. Stay blessed, Edwin, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and see you later.
Okay, peace.